Cameron County Press, Thursday, December 15th, 1904. This article is why I love these so much, because it's so wholesome, and it's just like, you just don't see these kinds of articles in the news. And it's really like, it kind of seems like a 10-year-old wrote it, which it's easy for me to read, so that's good. A good wide yawn. It is a splendid reviver for the whole body. A good, wide, open-mouthed yawn is a splendid thing for the whole body. A yawn is nature's demand for rest. Some people think they only yawn because they are sleepy, but this is not so. You yawn because you are tired. You may be sleepy also, but that is not the real cause of your yawning. You are sleepy because you are tired, and you yawn because you are tired. Whenever you feel like yawning, just yawn, dude. Don't try to suppress it because you think it is impolite to yawn. Put your hand over your mouth if you want to, but let the yawn come. And if you are where you can stretch at the same time that you yawn, just stretch and yawn, dude. This is nature's way of stretching and relaxing the muscles. Don't be afraid to open your mouth wide and yawn and stretch whenever you feel like it. Indeed, if you are very tired, but you do not feel like yawning, there is nothing that will rest you so quickly as to sit on a straight back chair and, lifting your feet from the floor, push them out in front of you as far as possible, stretch the arms, put the head back, open the mouth wide, and make yourself yawn. Those tense nerves will relax, the contracted muscles will stretch, and the whole body will be rested. Do this 2 or 3 times when you are tired and see what it'll do for you, ladies and gentlemen. 1904, they were yawning, and they didn't give up, like they were just like, ah! Okay. Alright. The Cavern of Gold. I'm excited. I'm sorry. I'm almost done putting all this together. And I'm kind of proud of it. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of proud of it. It turned into a whole lot more than I thought it was going to. But yeah, dude. It's like I'm totally tech savvy now. Know all about the techs. So, alright. Anyways. The Alliance Independent. Alright, good article. June 29th, 1893. Not a good start. Already screwed that up. But here we go. I love this. This is a really cool story. Okay. As the train swept around a curve and we looked from our seats in the smoking car at the heights towering above it, Colonel B waved his cigar toward the snow-capped mountaintops of the Sierra Nevada. There is many a secret still buried in those grim old giant breasts. Pause. There are still 1,000 stories to be told of them and those that have tried to wrest the riches from them. And this preface, Colonel, meekly suggested the writer, means a story, of course, said the Colonel, who is an old 49er and a man known among his compeers as integrity itself. A story that rivals any Haggard ever told or Jules Verne dreamed of. In 1871, I had abandoned an unsuccessful search for fortune in the mining camps and begun the practice of law, when one day a man named Blue came into the office. Of course his name is Blue. He had been an old chum of a miner in the old gold hunting days, and I had known him to be an unusually straightforward, upright chap for those lawless times. But that day he told me a story that made me wonder if he was a rogue with some scheme to work, or the insanest man out of an asylum. He prefaced this story by showing me half a dozen nuggets of gold that fairly took away my breath. They were splendid fellows, the smallest of them weighing at least 4 ounces, and what is more, they were nearly pure metal. "Beauties, ain't they?" said Blue. Then, looking to see that the door was fast locked, half whispered, "And I know where tens of thousands of them can be found." He searched his pockets and produced something wrapped in a rag, which, being unrolled, exhibited to my amazed eyes a bracelet, a man's in size, of beaten gold. This I held while he told his story. "Do you remember where, close to the old Jesse May mine, we found the lost river? The stream, you know. Ain't never in sight, but if you listen at a little place torn in the side of the hill, you can hear the sound of a river rushing over the rocks down below. And how you can feel the very spray of the water if you hold your hand in a little ways." Subterranean rivers, man, love them. Well, one day, me and a man named Scroggin had climbed that hill after a deer we were following, and when the deer was killed, we got to quarreling over whose shot had killed him. All at once, Scroggin struck out at me and sent me flying down the hill, and my foot caught in a root just over the hole where the lost river was heard. And in I went. I thought I was gone, for I fell plump into the water, and an angry stream it was, too, running over rocks and with a channel almost too small for it. But I only knew this from the bumps and thumps I got as I was carried on, for it was as dark as Egypt. Not Feegypt, but it looks like it. These articles, they're old, so shut up. Why my brains were knocked out 20 times, I can't say, but after a while the river got to a free bed and I was able to swim a little. I struck out for the right-hand bank and pretty soon I was able to crawl out of the water. I rested here for a while considering what I was to do, for I was the worst lost man I had ever heard of. But it did no good to sit still, so I began to feel around and stumbled along the bank, got about by the water's murmur, until I reckon I had gone nearly half a mile. Then the river seemed to plunge deeper into the earth, and the roof of the cavern grew so low I could not follow it. But some distance off I saw a point of light like a star, and going to this, found it a hole in the side of the mountain, and I creeped out. Can you imagine being stuck under there like that? I would just get in a fetal position and cry. For sure. Well, I've visited the cavern several times since, carrying torches, and I've seen some things I ain't going to tell you of now. But I want a partner in the business, for reasons you'll see later, and knowing I could depend on you to act square with me, B. I looked you up. I'm going to make your fortune, old man. Why, Monte Cristo will be small fry compared to you and me when we've got all our treasures. We arranged to visit the cavern the following day and started early on horseback. We had some 7 or 8 miles when all at once we felt the earth tremble violently and Blue's pony fell to his knees. But there was no harm done, and an earthquake is too common an event in this country for much to be made of it. So, though we felt 2 more distinct shocks before we reached our destination, little was said about it. Before we entered the cabin, Blue produced half a dozen torches, some provisions, a little canoe, and some other things he had hidden in the bushes close to the hole where we entered. Typical Blue stuff. This was hardly large enough to admit us, but we squeezed through, and lighting our torches made our way to where the river entered the low roof channel Blue had spoken of. The canoe was placed in the water and a lantern lighted, and we got in, but lay quite flat in the bottom of the boat, as it was impossible to sit upright. A shove sent the canoe into the middle of the stream. The current caught it and sent it whirling along. There were several minutes of this strange journey when the roof lifted all at once and we sat up. The lantern showed us a dim shore to which Blue paddled, and getting out, he hauled up the canoe and, lighting the torches, walked forward among the rocks with which the floor of the vast cavern was lined. All at once I found myself in the midst of a city of overturned houses. They were not huts, but rather pretentious structures of stone, and around them lay the skeletons of the people whose dwelling they had been. Blue gave me no time to examine these, but led on to the largest building of the collection, which numbered several hundreds. This I knew to be a temple from the style of architecture, which resembled somewhat the temple of India. This was in ruins like the rest, but was still in a measure upright. We entered, stumbling over several skeletons, all with gold ornaments about their necks and legs and wrists. But I had no eyes for these. For before me lay an image on its face, which the dim light of the torches showed me to be a massive gold from the top of it, its ugly head to the feet. So it was gold all the way up the cavern. The thing must have weighed nearly a ton, and scattered about were scores of other images, all of the same precious metal and representing various birds and animals, while the largest one was that of a man or woman. I don't remember now which. The altar, which measured about 4 feet square, was of gold also, and further inspection showed me that the very walls of the temple were of the same gold. It was gold everywhere. I was actually dizzy at the sight, but Blue led me out to the ancient bed of a stream just outside the city, where I saw nuggets of gold as thick as pebbles in a brook, some of them, I am telling you the solemn truth, as large as my head. I got down on my knees to examine them, and I know them to be beyond a doubt nearly pure gold. The getting of the gold above the ground was not the only difficulty, for we would then have to convey it from the spot. One breath of our secret, and we would have been mobbed. I was thinking of this when, without warning, I was thrown down on my face. I staggered to my feet and looked about me. Blue lay near me, insensible, for, falling as I had done, he had struck his head against a rock, and I caught him by the arm, screaming, "Oh, Blue, get up, man, and run for your life. The mountain is coming in." Mountain is coming in, I believe, for a horrible rending, grinding sound was to be heard deep in the bowels of the earth. The rocks about us shook, and as I shouted to my companion, I saw an awe-striking sight. The bed of the ancient river split like a pine shingle, right down the middle, and I saw a mighty gush of water thrown fully 20 feet into the air. Blue staggered to his feet, and as he did so the torrent caught us, whirled us. Blue staggered to his feet, and as he did so the torrent caught us, whirled us, still clinging together, down the slope to the other stream. The canoe swung round on the crest of the waves, but I caught it at ear. It could be swept away, and steadied it and myself against a big rock. Some of the words I've never said before, but ear. I mean, I've said ear, but shut up. Blue seized it also, and together we succeeded in getting out of the torrent, sweeping down to join the river, that seemed as if it too were lashed by an unseen hand. Then came another shock. For a moment the stream actually appeared to be tilted up on one end and to flow backward. This settled it. I sprang into the canoe and Blue followed. The current was against us, but I paddled with might and main. I had a horrible sensation of being caught like a rat in a trap, and that the rocky roof above us was descending. When we reached the dip in the roof, Blue laid down, but by means of pushing it against the wall, I sent the canoe flying along. There was a constant pealing as of thunder in the air, and every now and then would come a crash, as of enormous rocks being thrown down, but in sheer desperation I shoved on. When at last we saw the blessed light shining in at our entrance, I gave a shout of joy and fairly hauled Blue through it into the welcome day. As for poor companion, he seemed crushed. Some inkling of the truth had come to him even then, though I was so full of escaping that I gave no thought as to the probable consequence of the earthquake. We spent the night at the mining camp, and next morning Blue proposed our return to the cavern. I was still too shaken to go, but he insisted that we must go, so he did, while I waited for him at the entrance. In about 2 hours he returned, and I saw at once that he was nearly out of his mind. "I can't find it," he said. "I can't find it. Oh, the gold, the pretty yellow gold. Oh, I must find it. I am rich, rich, rich. Do you hear me? I'm the richest man in the world." I tried to get out of him what he had seen, but he could not compose himself sufficiently to tell me, and I soon saw that he was insane. After after some days, I ventured into the cavern, but as soon as I saw the river that had borne us to the submerged city, I knew that we had set foot in it for the last time. The river was completely choked up by heaps of rock, and from a stream of 20 feet wide had become a shallow lake, extending some distance, and with a small rivulet making its way at one end into the bowels of the earth by some impenetrable shaft. The entire aspect of that subterranean country had been altered, and by subsequent measurement I ascertained that where the ruined city had been now rested thousands of tons of earth and rocks. Perhaps the disappointment of losing so fabulous a fortune would have sunk deeper with me had it not been for the warning poor Blue's despair was. He went quite mad, and took to lingering about the entrance in his lost El Dorado, guarding it as fiercely as a starving dog a bone, until one day he disappeared. What his fate was I never learned. Philadelphia Times. Cool story, right? Yeah, and I know your first thought, that was all made up, but you gotta think, dude, what is this, 18... Like, it's so funny to read these articles because, okay, 1893, it sounds like a bunch of children, right, just got thrown onto this new land, and they were just like, all right, figure it out, which kind of is what really happened, and they're just like finding all of this stuff, and you gotta think, like, I know the mainstream narrative is, we found America and the only ones with horror are the Indians. That's not true. That's not true at all. I've got a lot of articles on that. We'll get into that. But we are literally living on top of civilization after civilization after civilization. So, you got to think that maybe not all of it's true, but some of it's true. I've got some other cave stories of people finding, complete civilizations and still intact. Some really big people, which we'll get into as well. Some would call it giants. Some would call them Shaquille O'Neal. So we'll get into that. But I hope y'all liked that. I think this is going to be the end of my first video. I've got some that I've already recorded. I just need to put them together. So thanks for watching and subscribe. Ugh.